I was going to say when I'm going through something, I find creativity comes a little easier. I don't know if that's the truth though. I'd have to really think about that. It might come equally as when there's balance. I think when there's trauma in one's life, it's easier to tap in to creativity sometimes, which is very classic of artists, of course. All right, so we're here in the attic of Rollout, and they have Metatron printed on the ceiling. And Metatron is this really beautiful collage of intricate line work that was inspired by my time down in Los Angeles. And this particular version is printed black, but then with metallic line work. And so when you view it from certain angles, it appears almost flat black. And then a different angle, and you see all this beautiful, beautiful line work shining through at you. It's really a special piece. I almost always start in black and white because I'm a huge advocate of a good composition. Starting with black and white, it's easier to find, with whatever elements you're using, it's easier to find that perfect composition. I often start with subtlety too, just to see how that, and if that pattern, if that design actually stands by itself as a subtle piece, because then you can always amp it up somehow, right? Via color or contrast or whatnot. There's something, I think, soothing to me about patterns. It's similar to a good composition or what we know as the 3/3. I think just there is some element of comfort and calmness when those elements come together. So I think with regards to patterns, while I'm building a pattern, especially a repeat pattern, some more of the intricate line work stuff, it's very structured, and when that sort of comes together, there's this innate calmness to it. Earlier today, I was walking down the street and I saw this beautiful a pattern created by architecture and nature, and just the way it was falling on the concrete was just really beautiful. And I was inspired by it. My first series with Rollout was solely based around textures and tiles, antique tiles found in Morocco and Spain and Italy. And I was just really drawn to those. I think mostly because of the contrast of something very rigid, and then having this distressed patina age, strictly created through time. There's something beautiful about that. So optical is based on, as you can see, the very grid structure. What do we have here, 16 squares. And then again, trying to find a balance of repeatable pattern, but trying to make it abstract as possible within that repeatable pattern. So controlling chaos, which is impossible, essentially. That's kind of what I try to do with all of these patterns. Again, sort of taking a triangle shape and trying to create a semi-abstract pattern behind it. I mean, I did add some elements of like distress and things to try to give it some depth, but really it was just an exercise in playing with, you know, this contained space. And I mean, a lot of the patterns are like this. It's an exercise in taking these boundaries, this confined space, and trying to create some type of energy and depth. Raygun was definitely influenced by my favorite designer, David Carson. While I was in design school, I think he was director of Bikini and Raygun magazines, which I was a huge fan of. I just love that, you know, a consumer product, which is supposed to be read as a magazine, could be so abstract that it almost becomes illegible, but it creates this beautiful compositions. And that's one thing that David Carson's incredible at, is utilizing different elements to create compositions. And it doesn't mean that those elements need to be legible. So sometimes he'd use just like a block of text, but you could barely read it, but it was utilized more as just a visual object. And I thought that back then, I thought that was just, you know, almost like a protest to current design styles. And I fell in love with it. So this piece actually was a piece I did with the help of my daughter. I've been really wanting to engage her a lot in these things. And so we have sometimes get big canvases and just go nuts on them. This time I wanted to take the most basic translation of a paintbrush swash. But what we used was squeegees instead. So we would drip down some paint, squeegee to make different shapes, and then I photographed them and then started utilizing them more as like puzzle pieces to find balance in that confined square. And it's this combination of bold elements, but with sort of distress and texture on the edges simply because of the medium we used. So that was a fun piece, engaging my daughter in that. It was really, yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. I love the idea of being able to use what is within your surroundings to create something. But I think that takes talent to be able to do that without going out and trying to find a very particular or specific tool or medium or piece of inspiration, but like really looking very, very locally within your area. So this one uses a bowl of water, some soap, some oil, some fabric dye, and you mix it together and you take a straw and you blow into the water. It creates these beautiful bubble sculptures. And then I have, a piece of watercolor paper on top, and it translates to the watercolor paper. Photograph that, and then start piecing together a pattern from it, essentially. I don't know why, but I was thinking about these beautiful old French polka dot skirts, like super, super classic. And just the beauty of that it's the most basic pattern. Polka dots, very structured, super bold, and beautiful. And I just wanted to sort of make a very loose translation of that. Spray paint, and creates this semi-distressed version of that French skirt. One thing I love about Rollout is that they're so dedicated, just incredibly deeply dedicated to artists. In an era where you can create anything online or through AI or whatever, they still are just so dedicated to artists.